I don't mind you coming here and learning how to divide fractions. Today I will teach you 3 ways. So let's get started, shall we? Now that I have your attention, grade 8s, let's look at today's lesson. It is 3.6. We are going to be dividing fractions today. My goal is to teach you 3 different ways, and it is up for you to decide which way you like best. I will give you some questions, you will work on them, and we will talk about them in class tomorrow. Alrighty, so let's take a look. That's all we're focusing on today is dividing fractions. I want to look at this question right here. It is 2/3 divided by 1/4 or 1/4, however you prefer to say it. You might say to me, Mr. Norman, when am I ever going to have to use this? And I will basically turn it around and say, hey, let's look at this. The pizza method. I always revert fractions back to pizza. I think it relates so much, and it's one of my favorite foods. So let's say you had 2/3 of a pizza left over from the classroom party, and you wanted to divide the 2/3 of that pizza into quarters. Well, how many slices would you be able to get out of that? So there's 3 methods I'm going to teach you today. The first one is the number line. All right, so let's take a look here. E. Pearson has an awesome online manipulative section with the textbook, and so I've prepared the online number lines here. I came and did this beforehand. So take a look here. 0 to 1. In the top line, I divided it into twelfths, and I'll tell you why in a second. In the middle line, I divided it into thirds, and the bottom, I divided it into quarters. So let's take a look here at our question. 2/3 divided by a quarter using the number line method. The number line method is tough sometimes, especially when you have denominators that are not the same. To use the number line method, basically, we got to figure out a friendly number line. In this case, this first one here where I divided into twelfths is a friendly number line for us. Why do you think I divided into twelfths? Does anybody see a pattern or the numbers? Take a look at that for a second. Well, do you notice if I count by 3, I will eventually hit twelfths. And if I count by fourths, I will eventually hit twelfths, right? So what I did was I figured if I cut my number line here into twelfths, I would be able to they're friendly. I can use that method. So let's take a look here. We said we had 2/3 of a pizza, correct? So if I go to my number line here, I'm going to put an orange dot at 2/3. Simple enough, right? Now, if you look, oh, hey, 2/3 lines up very nicely with this dot. So let's put a dot right there. Okay. Well, 2/3 is equal to whatever that dot is. Well, how many twelfths is that? 1 12, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 twelfths. So we can say 8 twelfths is actually equal to 2/3. Does everybody understand that? You get that? Perfect. Okay. Now we want to take this much pizza, starting at 0, going to this number right here, which in this case is 8 twelfths. We want to divide that into quarters. Ooh, well, remember our question here, so we're going to take the 2/3 and we're going to divide it into quarters. Down here, I divided this number line into quarters. So this purple will represent 1 slice. Hey, does that line up anywhere up here? Oh, it does, right there. So guess what? I'm going to take this and I'm going to line it up with that right there. And I can say 1/4 is actually equal to 1, 2, 3 twelfths. So 1/4 is equal to 3 twelfths. Okay, so that's 1 slice of pizza. So let's see how many of these slices we can cut into this 2/3 that we have remaining. I love this. It remembers how far I want each jump. So, am I able to make another one? No, it's too much. It goes past, so I'm going to go erase that one. Okay, so let's take a look here. How many jumps did we make? 1, 2 jumps. So I'm going to go here.
Morning, staff.
I'm going to pause this for a second. All right, so let's go back here to our number line. We said that there were 2 jumps. So I know my big number out here is going to be 2. Now where it gets a little tricky is let's go back to the number line and figure out the fraction part. Okay, so how many ticks do I have to get to the 2/3 marks here? I got 1, 2. So that number is going to go on top. Okay. Now, here's where it gets confusing is what's the number on the bottom? Well, now you got to go back and see how big was each jump. Each jump we made was 1, 2, 3 ticks. And we have 2 ticks left out of 3. So that's how we come up with the 3 on the bottom. So if you had 2/3 of a pizza and you divided it into quarters, you would be able to feed 2 people and 2/3 of a slice. Does that make sense? Now, the number line can be a little tough because you have to go and figure out like what to cut the number line into. In this case, to cut it into 12, so you had to figure out that. And then once you had that, you just kind of play around with it. Hopefully that helps you figure out how to use a number line to divide fractions. So maybe you like that method, maybe you didn't. And I'm going to show you a second method. And in this case, it doesn't involve a number line. It just involves figuring out common denominators. So let's take a look at this. Let's figure out 2/3 divided by a quarter. Let's just look at 2/3 and a quarter right now. We want to change the denominators to common denominators. We want to change them to the same denominator. So in this case, what I start doing is I start thinking, hey, is there any number that if I start counting by 3s and start counting by 4s, will I hit the same number? Well, let's try it. Count by 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Start counting by 4s. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Anybody hear a number that I landed on with both of them? 12, right? I know I can change 3 to 12. I'm going to rewrite it in red down here. So I can change 3 to 12. I can't just magically snap my fingers and make that happen. How do I change a 3 to 12? I just multiply it by 4. And in previous years in math, you learned whatever you do to the bottom of the fraction, you do it to the top, and they'll be equal. So if I multiply the bottom by 4, in this case, I multiply that fraction by 4 at the top. 4 times 2 is 8. Perfect. Put my little divide by here. Now, let's change our 4 to a 12. Well, how do I change the 4 to a 12 on this side? I simply multiply 4 by 3. And whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. All right, so 4 times 3 is 12. I multiply the top by 3, and that becomes 3/12. Now, what I notice here when I divide the top, and I divide the numerators, and I divide the denominators. In this case, 12 and 12 go into each other, so I can just cancel those out. They are 1, 1. So now all I focus on is the 8 divided by 3. Watch how I'm going to write this. 8 divided by 3. 8 divided by 3, when I write it this way, actually just looks like an improper fraction, correct? So now all we're going to do is we're going to take this improper fraction and let's change it to a mixed numeral. So how many times does 3 go into 8? It goes in twice with a remainder of 2, and my denominator stays the same. So my answer is 2 2/3, just like it was up here using the number line method.